In this video, I'm going to tell you about my very first meeting with my Filipina in the Philippines that absolutely devastated my visit. And I'll tell you something right here that you need to take seriously when you go to the Philippines. But quickly, if you're new to my channel, then I offer you a warm welcome. My name is Peter, and on this channel, I combine my life's experiences of finding, dating and marrying a Filipina over the past 8 years with my professional experience as a relationship counsellor for well over a decade to bring helpful information and tips to you via my videos. So if you're interested in Filipinas and the Philippines, then be sure to subscribe and press the notification bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Okay, so here we go. And I want to tell you about my own story back in 2014 on my first trip to meet my Filipina in the Philippines for the very first time. Like everyone else, I was rather excited to be going on an adventure which could possibly be a whole new beginning of my life. Now, being that I was rather inexperienced in travelling overseas, as the only time prior to going to the Philippines was back in 1980 as a 16-year-old boy, where I didn't need to worry about anything because my parents took care of it all. So this being the case, I decided to do a bit of research to see what I should be aware of when in the Philippines. This trip was rather a short one at only 8 days due to work commitments. So really, what could possibly go wrong in that short time? I arrived and met my girlfriend, who, yes, is now my wife, and we hit it off straight away. We had talked online for around 4 months, so we felt like we knew each other reasonably well, and certainly it helped us to feel more at ease in each other's company. But what was to come, I never possibly could have imagined, and at that point I was in such a massive hurry to get back home. But before I get to that part of the story, I was having a great time in Manila, where we did a little exploring before getting on a bus and travelling around 7 hours north of Manila to the province to get to know her family. The bus ride was fine, and it was absolutely lovely to meet her family, who all made me feel so welcome. And I have to say that Filipinos have an amazing way of doing this, and that feeling really stays with you for a very long time. So after the 4th day, we returned to Manila, where we did some more exploring and continued to enjoy each other's company and to spend some quality time together. My wife had invited her uncle, who was also her boss at that time, for lunch at a Makati hotel so I could get to meet him and get to know him a little. We had a very pleasant meal, and we had a great conversation in getting to know one another a little more personally. I remember after I finished my meal and we were talking, I noticed that I was crunching the last bit of ice that was in my Coke. Now, this was something that I was not consciously doing, as I knew from my research not to drink the local water or eat the ice. I knew always to only drink bottled water, but of course right here it was too late, as I'd consumed all the ice in that glass. I was hopeful at that time, because it was a big hotel, that maybe they used bottled water and not tap water. At least that was my hope. Our lunch finished around 1:30 p.m, and then I never gave it another thought. That was until around 8 p.m. in my hotel room, when I started to feel a little unwell in my stomach, and over the next hour or so this really intensified. Now, I won't give you all the horrific details here, but you can certainly use your imagination when I say that I couldn't go further than a few metres from the toilet. However, I was hopeful that this would only last a day or two, as I had my flight home booked after that. Sadly, over my last 2 days there, my stomach was churning and I was still very unwell. The time came to say goodbye to the woman who had now become my girlfriend. And as sad as it was, I just wanted now to get home to where I could recover in time to get back to work in 2 days' time. Now, I have to tell you that this flight was the most uncomfortable time in my entire life. Sitting on a plane for 8 hours straight, where you felt like you needed to get to a toilet constantly, not knowing if you could hold on or make it in time, was so worrying and darn uncomfortable. And all this because I had a lapse in concentration and ate that ice a couple of days before. I have to say I was so dirty on myself at this time, but my sole focus now was just to make it home without embarrassing myself. Finally, I did make it home, but I was still sick for a few more days, so in total, this severe stomach upset lasted a good week before I could comfortably venture away from home. You can be sure that this event really devastated my first meeting with my Filipina because we're having such a wonderful time and my visit was rather a short one. Instead of being able to appreciate my Filipina in those last few days, all I could do was lay in the hotel bed doing nothing. And again, I only had myself to blame. I should have known better and been more careful. And been better prepared by speaking to a doctor before I left home to get some medication for such stomach issues just in case. Luckily for me, just 3 months later I was back on a flight to the Philippines to be with my girlfriend again, but this time for 28 days where we really had the best time together, which cemented our relationship. By the time I returned home after that glorious 28 days, I knew she was the one for me, and I knew she felt the same way. The point of this whole story is so you're aware how sick you can get just by doing something so simple like eating ice. At home, we don't give it a second thought, but in the Philippines, it can really make you very sick and destroy what should have been a great time with your Filipina in getting to know her and exploring the country together. So be sure not to have those lapses of concentration and always be vigilant when in the Philippines, and be sure to have a chat to your doctor before you fly out to make sure that you're covered just in case. Don't learn the hard way like me, because I assure you it's like going through hell on earth, and I would never wish that on anyone, not even the trolls that come here to this channel. Okay, well maybe that's a stretch. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.